Another day, another crypto legal issue, and this time it is time for the old WTF hat. What's going on, guys? Just hot on the heels of yesterday's CFTC lawsuit against Binance, we have new charges against Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced former founder of FTX. So let's do a little bit of background before we get into these new charges. And then from there, we're going to talk a little bit about why I think there's something in here that connects to other important issues as well. So the first set of charges, which came out against SBF, were in December, and there were 8 criminal charges. This is in addition to civil charges of fraud at the SEC and the CFTC, but these are the ones that Sam is going to go on trial for in October or whenever they actually do the trial. The 8 charges are conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on lenders, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud the United States and violate campaign finance law. So obviously the first 7 of these relate to FTX business practices and this small cabal of leaders that Sam had around him, including Nishad Singh, Gary Wang, and Carolyn Ellison, who is at Alameda, all of whom have flipped now on Sam and who have given testimony to authorities who are actively cooperating and who are hoping to get leniency for their cooperation. Well, all of those charges led to more charges. And the second set of charges came out in, in February of this year. And there were 4 new charges in a superseding indictment. So that brought obviously the total to 12. And these new charges dealt a little bit with that last charge, with the fraudulent conduct surrounding Sam's campaign donations. So basically, these 4 charges related to unlawful political contributions, and they alleged that Sam effectively used other people inside FTX, notably Ryan Salem and notably Nishad Singh, to get around campaign finance laws. Effectively, he gave them or made them take loans, which then they turned around and gave to different political causes, but all at the behest of Sam. So as you see here from CNBC, the 12-count indictment provides new details of hundreds of political donations that Bankman-Fried allegedly directed in violation of federal campaign financing laws. The indictment also said that he tried to purchase influence over cryptocurrency regulation in D.C. by steering tens of millions in dollars in illegal campaign contributions to both Democrats and Republicans. So obviously this helps explain why the U.S. government has been so angry and aggressive towards crypto subsequent to Sam, is that they have a lot of egg on their face, right? Of these 12 charges, 5 relate to campaign finance issues and to Sam's political donations. And you'll remember that those were quite popular among politicians when Sam was a golden child, right? Okay, so we have 8 or 12 charges now coming into yesterday or coming into this morning, 7 relating to fraud surrounding FTX business practices, and then 5 relating to campaign finance and political election activities. Well, today's new icing on this shit cake is that Sam tried to bribe Chinese officials. Effectively, at one point, I guess, there was about $1 billion worth of digital assets that had been frozen by the Chinese government that belonged to Alameda Research. And Sam, tried to offer to pay $40 million to unlock those funds. In fact, the accounts were released, it says, after the payment was transferred from Alameda's main trading account to a private cryptocurrency wallet. So the indictment is suggesting that he successfully bribed one or more Chinese government officials with $40 million. This is obviously a huge, huge deal. I think Adam Cochran pretty well sums this up when he writes, could have probably gotten away with donating to the U.S. officials on both sides. Might have even wormed your way out of other charges unfairly. But if there is one thing both sides come together on in the U.S., it's bribes to foreign government. SBF is going away for life. Now, I don't know whether Adam Cochran is right on that last point, but it is certainly the case that there are pretty serious charges here that relate to more than just the crypto industry. And we'll come back to that in just a minute, but I think the one other note of new information that's come out around FTX is that apparently Genesis, which is also in bankruptcy proceedings, was given sort of privileged access to SAM coins effectively before they launched, including FTT and Serum, at a discounted rate. The legality of this, I think, matters less than just the patternicity of deception and internal dealing that characterized Sam his entire time in the crypto industry. But anyways, back to this question of if there's one thing both sides can come together on in the US, it's bribes to foreign governments. I actually think it's even broader than that. And Andrew AP Abacus's point kind of gets at this a little bit. He says, understand that these latest charges against SBF is another useful idiot drumbeat that will be pounded by regulators. Regulators, crypto, bribery, China. More extreme cover for wild regulatory overreach. I think that last point, we've talked a lot about crypto and Operation Choke Point 2.0. And in fact, I'm having Nick Carter on the show tomorrow, probably, or the next couple days, to give the full kind of history of Operation Choke Point and Choke Point 2.0. But it's this last part, this China, that I want to point out. Right now in the US, it is extremely popular to be antagonistic toward China. It is one of the only bipartisan positions for elected officials. And there are obviously some good reasons for questions and big concerns around the rising influence of China and their practices in a huge number of different areas. But it's also starting to be used as a bully cudgel for government overreach. And I think the best example of that we have right now is the Restrict Act, which is nominally about banning TikTok, but is incredibly widely defined. And I've called the internet's Patriot Act. So this is a piece in Pirate Wires, coincidentally, where Nick Carter published his Operation Choke Point 2.0 pieces. It's from Mike Solana. And he's talking about why it's worth considering a TikTok ban and why there are serious issues with China. However, he also says there are some good critiques of the TikTok ban. If confined to the language of the proposed Restrict Act, a ban might easily backfire. This bill is way too broad. He says, I largely agree with Mises' caucus here, which says the Restrict Act is not limited to just TikTok. It gives the government authority over all forms of communication, domestic or abroad, and grants powers to enforce any mitigation pressure measure to address any risks to national security now and in any potential future transaction, which that translated says we are giving ourselves incredibly wide-ranging powers, only having to invoke the national security risk language, which is extremely nebulous and hard to define and subject to interpretation, to exert incredible influence over the shape of the internet. I think that this is something that we need to all have attention on right now, because something that is extremely politically popular among elected officials, if not their constituents, has the potential to fundamentally change our relationship with the internet at large. So anyways, guys, the big news here is certainly that Sam was bribing a Chinese official, and who knows what else we're gonna add to his growing tally of crimes. But I do think that this bully cudgel of the threat of China is a rising influence in American domestic politics and is something to keep an eye on. Anyways, guys, that's the story from here. Who knows what we'll have to talk about by tomorrow, but I appreciate you hanging out, and I'll see you then. Peace.